Hey there, this is R.A. Manard, Mitrava, and here for another weekly service, The Truth Talk. And I am here at 7 o'clock sharp, and we'll be talking for, I suppose, 15-20 minutes. And what I was doing before is coming on a little early and then at 7 o'clock or so starting, but I think I should probably come in at 7 o'clock and then start a couple minutes late, so that if people are a couple of minutes late, they don't feel like they shouldn't show up. This time I actually did post some stuff about this was going to happen today. Today I posted it. So half of them haven't even been approved or disapproved by the administrators or moderators yet, but half of them did get out. So, maybe a person or two will show up today, whatever. Today we've got a background there of some of the plants. Got a lemon tree on the right, some ponytail palm trees back there in the back with some sort of what they're calling a bonsai tree, but honestly I don't think it is. I don't know what it is. And there's an orange tree you can barely see behind an oak tree in the middle there, and on the left some sort of flower, an annual flower, which, because I live in Arizona, hasn't had any opportunity to go dormant, so it just keeps growing. Be interested to see how long that goes. Anyway, today's topic is faith. Pretty broad topic. And I'm going to give it another minute and see who might show up. Of course, talking about faith is a charged subject depending on where you're talking about it and what context. Well, I suppose it's a couple minutes after. I'll just start. Anyway, I suppose we ought to start by saying what do we mean by faith? And there are different meanings depending, of course, on what context. Now, if you're a religious zealot of whatever religion, you are going to primarily, as they go, believe that faith is something that's belief in things you can't see, you can't prove. You have no reasonable way of knowing, and you believe it. And of course, you believe it's true. Now, there's another kind of faith, and that's in things that you do know. And some people have a struggle with this, having faith in fact-based discernment. But remind yourself of one of the times that you knew something was wrong, or you knew it was bad for you, or you just couldn't do it, and you did it anyway. You couldn't convince yourself at the time that you shouldn't do it, or that the result you knew was going to happen was going to happen. You just couldn't do it. You couldn't have faith in it. You couldn't have faith in your own fact-based discernment. It's sad, but it's human. That's the way we're wired. We're basically wired for short-term enjoyment, short-term results. Whatever we feel, we think, that's what reality is. That's what our mind wants us to think, because it's easier that way. It's easier and it's more pleasant to think we've got a real firm grip on reality and what's going on, what we want. When in reality, for almost all of us, that's really not true. So faith can be in things that we know and can be in things that we don't know. Now, it might sound like I'm bagging on religious zealots at the moment, and a little bit maybe I am. We'll get to that later, but I'm not outright. I'm not saying that having faith in things that you can't prove, you can't see, whatever, is necessarily a bad thing. I am saying, however, that necessarily proof in things we can see, we can test and prove for ourselves, is a good thing, period. And so, if you're going to have one faith or the other, you can guess which one I would advise. Now, humans are complex, and they generally can't have one or the other. Even your most religious zealot still has faith in fact-based discernment. They don't go to the kitchen for something to drink, as I like to use for an illustration on some things, and go under the sink and drink Drano for a nice refreshing drink, because they know what's in the bottle, they know what the label looks like, they know what's under the sink. They know. How do they know? Do they just know? No, they have experience. They have first-hand testing with things to know what is what, where it is, how it is, what to expect. A person wouldn't live a full day. It'd be a miracle if they could live for a full day without using fact-based discernment. It's just almost impossible. So you have to ask yourself, why wouldn't we use it if we have it and we depend on it so much and it works for us so well? Well, people get off on topics where they feel like it's beyond them, that they can't understand, that they can't hope to comprehend, that maybe no one can ever comprehend. And as you probably know, things of that topic all throughout history have mostly been found out. We do understand them now. We do know how they work. They're not in the realm of faith. They're not in the realm of speculation. We know these things. Why is the sky blue? How do rainbows happen? Why is the grass green? These were things that originally, the shape of the earth, all these things were originally thought to be such far out godly things that humans would never comprehend. So people took things on faith. Well, God creates rainbows as a promise for something. God makes it rain or makes thunder happen because of this, or the thunder god Thor makes the lightning, and so on and so forth. And for the most part, we've been able to dispel these things for most people, but not for everyone. There are still some people that think maybe the Earth's not round, that think that rainbows are some sort of godly expression of a particular thing instead of the prism effect and dew droplets, or droplets of moisture, that is. But faith leaves the person at a certain point. If it's just fact-based discernment and your comprehension, you haven't gone that far. So they feel helpless. They feel like, once again, they're not in control. They don't have a grip on reality. And what is the mind going to try to do at that point? It's going to try to pull you in. It's going to try to tell you that you know exactly what's going on. You know exactly why, where, what, when, who, everything. Because if you do, the world becomes much smaller. It's much more pleasant for you to live in a little cocoon of you believe everything, you know everything. And, that's not really the world we live in. I think we can all be honest with ourselves that we don't live there. We don't know everything. Even Buddha didn't say, I know everything. That would just be ridiculous. And what would be the point of knowing everything, I guess, would be my further question. But back to faith. So, if you believe you can't comprehend these things and you need to extend with faith, that's okay. If you entertain this faith because otherwise you're afraid, I wouldn't advise it, but hey, maybe it is the best thing for now. If you entertain faith because it feels good and that's it, I would advise against it. And you might not be able to be honest with yourself. And the real litmus test for whether faith is something you really shouldn't have or not, a particular kind of faith, is, does it interfere with your being able to figure things out? move forward. And people can really get stuck in a place where they're in a rut, and that's it. There's nothing new because they believe they have it all figured out. And it's a miserable place for them. Or it's, randomly a disaster or a blissful time, depending on what hour of what day it is. And I think we can all agree that that's not where we want to live either. We want to move forward. We want to know what's going on. I'm not saying you're not going to suffer, because everybody does suffer. But most of our suffering is something we bring on ourselves because of our ignorance, because of our actions, which are misguided. We could do much better. And so this is an important part in faith where you can't stop yourself. You don't want to hinder yourself. You don't want to get in your own way. You don't want to throw blocks in front of you to trip on of your own doing. It's just making life so much harder than it has to be. So I said before that I wasn't bagging on religious zealots necessarily, and I'm not, because faith in things you can't see can actually be a good thing sometimes. Now, let's say you have these things that are blind faith. They do make you feel good. They do help you not be afraid, but they don't get in your way. Well, you know what? Those things might actually be the truth. You don't know. I don't know. Could be. I mean, logic tells you that a random assortment of them are going to be the truth. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, and a broken clock is right twice a day. So, yeah, it happens. And then a religious zealot, by mistake, will oftentimes go, look, see, there's the truth. I knew it. Now I'm able to verify it. Now I'm able to comprehend it. I knew it was true. Okay, well, that doesn't mean everything in the box is the same thing. You find one thing in a box, it doesn't mean everything's the same. You find a piece of candy in a box, doesn't mean the rest isn't, who knows, dog poop, whatever. Something else. So, but this generalization, this compartmentalization, this generalization, this easy acceptance is, once again, the mind, how it wants to operate. There's so much input coming in that it screens things out for you. And it's a good thing, but we need to be able to move forward. We need to be able to learn about ourselves, how we work, and move forward consistently. So let's say that, and this is particularly for Christians, I see a lot where they believe that they're, quote, saved, unquote. So no matter what they do, they're going to go to heaven. They just don't have anything to worry about as far as that goes. Their future is assured in the next life, something they can't prove, see, test, but they believe it, and it makes them feel good, and it keeps them from being afraid, but it also keeps them from moving forward. Because what's the incentive to become a better person? Where's the urgency? I mean, if you suffer, you can what? Then blame it on the devil? Blame it on yourself being stupid because you don't understand God as well as you should? And that goes too far. It's gone to the point where they've stopped doing that now, but they used to very recently tell cancer patients that if they're religious, that they should pray and God will save them if they pray hard enough. Well, of course, that's not really the case. We know that no matter how hard they pray, they're going to die or they're going to live statistically. There hasn't ever been, with even over the margin of error, a rise in people recuperating from these deadly diseases or healing faster in any event that are religious or Christian or pray or are prayed for. Not crystal healing, not Reiki, not any of these things. But blind faith will make these things seem very real. And there is the placebo effect. Well, I felt so much better when the Reiki person did their mojo. Well, of course you did, because you really believed in it. Did it stop the pain? No, it really didn't. You felt like it stopped the pain. But the pain is still there and the brain still registers it. and the body will still feel it. So in a couple of days, when you're not so sure anymore that it's working, guess what? You feel it again. And in many cases, it comes back with a vengeance. And it's not just pain that comes back like that, my friend. All manner of delusion that you pursue will come back to bite you in this manner that I've seen. You'd be pretty lucky if it didn't. So there's a good faith kind of faith to have and a bad kind of faith to have. Not just generalized good, bad, many shades of gray, of course, but what I'm getting at is, why do you believe what you believe? Can you start being honest with yourself? Because you really have to strive for honesty with yourself, don't you? I mean, I've met more than one person that they're certainly not even honest to themselves. But those same people, golly, they have to paint a smile on their face because they're in a living hell of their own making. And it seems never ending and like there's no way out. Of course, wouldn't you want to help a person like that? Well, maybe they'll see an interesting video on the internet. Don't know. But anyway, if we try to help each other, we can get through this together the best possible way. With fact-based discernment, you don't have to extend yourself and believe what you can't see or hear. You test it, you prove it. If it's true, you practice it. After you practice it, if it's wise, productive, and good for everybody, you accept it. It's the truth. It's part of your practice. You can really start to get a deeper understanding of whatever that truth might be. And I tell people there's facts, and we should spend a moment on facts because people may not understand what a fact is. A fact is something where we can all test with the same method and get the same results that we can all verify is real and accurate. So it doesn't mean I saw a magic show and a guy made a tiger disappear. I saw it. It was real. I experienced it. No. You can tell yourself that you saw or experienced a lot of things, especially if you're doing drugs or if you're meditating. A lot of natural drugs in the brain, a lot of imagination, dreaming. And or you have a mental illness. People with mental illnesses often believe that, the voices in their head are angels or spirits. And that's a kind of faith because, of course, it's been tested many times and no one's ever had knowledge that they didn't already have access to given to them by a spirit. That's just never been the case. Not in a controlled environment. Of course, you can run a scam. You can take people's cell phones and wallets on their way in and get information and have an earpiece and the whole 9 yards as a psychic. But getting back to faith, the fact-based discernment, if you believe in that, that will pay off each and every time, consistently. I'm not saying that the according change is not going to be stressful. It's not going to be unpleasant sometimes, because sometimes it is. Everything that's good doesn't necessarily feel good, and everything that's bad doesn't necessarily feel bad. And of course, there's a short-term payoff and there's a long-term payoff. Delayed gratification is some of the best things you can experience. And I see that I'm almost at 20 minutes here, and I want to keep these short because I want these to be accessible to people. I don't want them to feel like it's a big, long thing and they're going to feel like they need to listen to the whole thing and be bored and the whole thing. I've been there. And maybe the dog wants out too. That was Duchess. Anyway, I want to thank you for listening today. I'm going to keep making these. If you have any suggestions for topics, we can certainly talk about it. But I'm going to leave a moment here. If there's a question, go ahead and ask, and I'll include that also. I'll give it a minute, see if there's any questions. It's been really nice doing these for everybody, and I've had some good feedback. And they aren't rehearsed. I don't have any bullet points, no scripts, no prepared material. I'm just talking about this stuff. So I hope it's conversational for everybody, and it's a very real experience. Because it is for me, and I think people should really just speak from what they know and what they've experienced and try to relate to each other instead of this plastic stuff I keep seeing. And I put these backgrounds of nature and whatnot in the background because I've seen so many videos where there's some guy looks like he's full of himself talking to the camera, and I have an aversion towards it, and I don't want to be that guy. It's not about me anyway. It's about the message. So, since there's no questions, I'll go ahead and sign off. Thanks for listening today. I really appreciate it. I wish all the best things in life for you and yours. Ari Manard Mitrava. Thank you.